Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cloud-Based Mayhem. A couple brief little things of housekeeping here before we get into the show with Veso, one of my favorites, and you're going to love this one. I get contacted by a ton of people asking if I could put their event into the podcast, and I'm always very resistant to that because so many more people would do it. I don't like to use the platform for advertising, so I apologize in advance to all of you who have asked me to do that and I've said no to because I'm about to do it for myself. But I guess if it's my own events, then I get a pass. Just two quick things. We're doing the second X Red Rocks this September. Applications are now open. It has the biggest prize purse, second only to the X Alps, $5,000 for first in the pro class, and down from there. We had an awesome event this year. It takes place at the end of September. This year it's September 30th through October 1st. And if you want to find out more, it's kind of a 3-day stage race modeled after the Eiger, Verico, Borns to Fly and those. But it's by far the biggest in North America. And it was a blast last year. And we're already ramping things up with a whole bunch of new sponsors and some cool stuff this year. So check it out if you want to take part in that. We're going to be bringing a bunch of the big name international athletes over to this one, and it's going to be a hoot. Monroe is an amazing place to fly and just awesome that time of year, super reliable. xredrocks.com is where you can find out more information about that. And the other one is we've got a U.S. Nationals / pre-PWC all lined up. Same place, Monroe, Utah, September 10th to 17th. That just went live on Air Tribune and Civil, and registrations will start for that April 1st. So if you're wanting to fly some big, high, huge distance tasks in a race to goal format in a beautiful part of the world, and by far the most reliable place we fly out here in the Intermountain West, that's just kind of sandwiched in between Bryce and Escalante and Dinosaur and all those magnificent national parks out there in Utah. Check that out. The Red Rock's wide open. I guess I'm becoming an event organizer without planning any of that. So check those out. It'll be a lot of fun. My guest today, Veso Ovcharov. We haven't done many shows as a repeat, but I had to get Veso back onto the show. His history is, of course, acro. That's what got him on with Red Bull. And he's got a fantastic website, Flying the Earth. He is the inventor, creator of the, what is the harness? 3RS base harness. So it's got not base harness, but acro harness where it has 2 reserves and a cutaway base rig. It's really forward thinking and fantastic. And the acro pilots are really loving it. We talk about that and hoping to get some crossover with that into cross country. But I reached back out mostly to talk to Veso about his XC. He has really been chasing that lately. He won XContest this year, no small feat, with all the pilots around the world chasing it so hard. He had an awesome stint down in Brazil this last season, which got him on top of XContest. And he's just smiling, awesome energy. I just love Veso, and he is more articulate than I am when it comes to in his second language in English. So we had a blast with this. We talk about cross country and acro and his infinite world record and a whole bunch of other stuff, and his harness, which is amazing. And a lot came out of this. We dove into some fun areas, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So enjoy this chat, the second chat with Veso Ovcharov, Red Bull athlete. Cheers. Veso, man, it's good to see your smiling face and catch up. It's been a while since our first show. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and the timing is perfect. I just had to watch you guys do all this epic racing and jumping off buildings in Dubai. You know, I was supposed to be there with you all, and I had to pull out at the last minute. And man, I had some serious, at the beginning, I was kind of, when I saw that first ramp with all the gaps and I saw Pal's comment that, oh God, someone's going to die. I thought, oh, okay, I made the right decision. But then, man, you guys made it look good. That looked so nice. And that evening flight when it wasn't the race anymore, when everybody just went for a boat around the sky in Dubai, man, that looked good. And I had some serious FOMO going on last week.
Gavin. It's so nice to hear you, to see you, and it's been a long time. I'm also very inspired from all the adventures you've been doing and been following them closely. It's what a ride. I mean, we're still lucky to can follow this dream, even with all the restrictions nowadays. And according to Dubai, that was definitely one of the craziest and most funny things for the year for me. I was also not sure, especially for the physical part. I had a little minor injury, the first one after more than 20 years of flying. It came so silly for me on a simple landing. Simple landing, hurt myself from the bush. It was a metal there, get to my leg. So
Was
I
that
was
down
not.
at the Worlds?
Yeah, that was just the end of August, actually,
Oh.
in the end of the summer, and I missed the World Cup in Turkey, and then I was barely ready for Dubai, and was like, wow, I can fly with this leg. Let's see. But in fact, was not the leg, which troubled me, was the breathing, because even the part of the physical part was so short, was so intense that I'm not used to the sprint version of exercise. I'm more of a long, slow walk with a weight on the shoulders, like we used to hike. But that was really a sprint discipline most of the time, and I almost fear for a heart attack. It was so intense in the stairs. And it was
It
like I
looked,
first time
this.
hear the alarm in my head, like me, and almost breaking out, like, oh, nobody around even to help me. Some people behind. I was not last, but still I felt like so alone there, so in danger. And then the
Yeah,
takeoff
and I
was.
mean, some of you guys who really aren't, all the time in the really hike and fly racing space, you guys held your own, Mickey Siegel and Seb Espina, and I was impressed. It looked just viciously fast. This guy sent me a guy that listens to the podcast all the time, who was there, I think, helping with media and stuff. He sent me a video. He was running along with Chrigel one day, and I don't think I've ever seen Chrigel look that winded. He wasn't smiling. He was
Everyone
throwing
was.
down hard, and it just looked. I wouldn't have done well there. I mean, I think I would have enjoyed the flying and the building stuff and that kind of thing, but I don't have that move either. I'm close to 50. I can't sprint with those guys. It looked fast.
Actually, it's incredible. Kriya was not top performing in the first 2 days, but he outstand overall everybody. And I think was for me was very entertaining, because even with the serious difference between the ability, the physical part, I could still be around these guys, and share the moment with them was very amazing. And he make a smart move. He make a suggestion to the organization not to put the takeoff of the building as a competition part, because someone will rush it and we will see something really nasty there. The potential was there, and they all agree that was really a vital moment that make the flying way more pleasant and way more acceptable, even with the crazy condition, because there was no competition element there, and was really funny. And that was some hard moments that I turned my head and was thinking to catch the elevator, when people were just running with basically no wind or really backwind, and
Ooh.
hopping into the leap. The glider works, but they use it more of as a jumping device than takeoff. I was
And
lucky. What
and
I attempted was kind of okay.
oh man, some of those launches, I mean, it was fabulous. The media they did was really incredible. You could see a lot of it, and then following all you guys on Instagram and seeing the videos and the launches, they're still coming out now. It just, man, it looks pretty tense. I mean, I don't have a huge fear of heights, but standing, a foot from that drop off doing a cobra was, you must have had, your heart must have been racing, buddy. That just looked dicey.
That was actually the biggest surprise, when we thought we are done with the sketchy part, and we see the condition get better, and was kind of coming front from the building, and was clear that we're gonna soar there, and was like, okay, let's go and just take off. But it was a pretty nightmare, because the rotor was so strong, was not allowing you with the few steps there on the short takeoff to pump the glider. We were trying and trying, and the only option eventually was just taking off from the really edge, with the Cobra style. I was shitting my pants there because I'm normally on the edge with a parachute that it's folded and it cannot be compromised. But the Cobra lunge there, it could go wrong. There is a case that can go wrong, and it was very emotional and very special to be part of this event for sure.
Yeah, and the dune flying out in the desert. One I'd love to get some clarification if it's not too uncomfortable. I didn't understand. I was on your guys' WhatsApp group, so I could see all the back and forth that was going on that the public wasn't privy to. What was the negativity stuff that was going on, and what happened with Chrigel's last day? He put up a post that because he and Tanguay were really in the lead, and he was in good position going into the last day. And from what I could tell from the live tracking thing and the media thing, he got a little jump on him on that second flight, and then he ended up last. And it sounded like it was a decision of I didn't understand it. I don't think anybody else did either. He put up a post that said, "Hey, I didn't really understand how to absorb," and because you guys were taking some heat for having an event in Dubai, but I never saw any of that stuff. I dug around. I couldn't find the comments that you guys were talking about. What was happening there?
I would like to start from the early on a bit because that was the last day. In general, we were all very impressed and surprised and pretty loaded with the challenge every single day because the challenge was different, and we thought that the building is the most difficult one and the sketchy one. But then we had the canyon before the dunes, before the place you mentioned for the go, and the canyon was also pretty interesting, and we thought it's gonna be kind of boring and really simple, but everyone have choose different strategy and was very interesting, very entertaining, very very difficult to hike this mountain twice. I did this mistake to attempt hiking it twice, but it was amazing. We could do glides like over 20 kilometers in a lee side over incredible ridges. It was very exciting because almost everyone reached the goal, and was a really good setup of the locals. Then with the moment with the mountain, which is kind of rising from the dunes, but we are more or less flying in a small mountain, which is very sharp actually. It's even tricky to walk there. The stones sound like a glass when you drop a small rock there. It's a very kind of volcanic, strange mountain, very sharp. And we were basically soaring in this mountain with a pretty mellow condition, but sometimes when the wind is more from the left or more on the right, all these small ridges create turbulence. And we were in fact racing full bar for an hour, sometimes even more, across these ridges, really low. Sometimes you realize you don't have time to recover from a major collapse, And
Wow.
it happens to have two accidents there. Two guys had a crash. But as well was a personal decision. No one is telling you to do that. But if you want to follow the herd movement or your blind eye, it could be bad card, and it plays bad for some of us. Steve hurt himself, and I think the Mexican guy as well.
Yeah,
That was
Eduardo.
pretty dicey and spicy, and we had a challenge with too many points. I also get lost in the last day. I didn't realize what's happening, and I was just 50 meters lower than the first group with them. And then I realized we're not landing there, and I have to go back and clear a high voltage, like 10,000 volts. And I
Oof.
think I did a pretty good decision, but still I cleared it with less than 10 meters. So there was a lot of things that can go wrong there, and they went wrong for some of us. Like Aaron wrapped a tree that
I saw
took him
that.
hours to take just the glider out of the tree. He lose the leadership. He could have won the event. And then the last day with the thing of that mistake that happened with Chrigel, we can judge different ways, but we'll never really know exactly. But I had the feeling that he just give chance to the youngster to take their best position, which was very
Mm.
sportive because he see the ranking was changing very hectic, and he was in fact appearing on top of the ranking by some lucky circumstances as well. And I thought he just want to keep it that way and not winning it. On the other
He's
way, I
such an
hear,
ambassador, isn't he?
yeah, he's
He's so,
amazing.
it
He's
doesn't
amazing.
surprise me. He's a really amazing. He's
He,
so giving. He's so
yeah,
open with all of his information. He really wants everybody to be good and better. And he's really
yeah, it's his
a
next level for
fatherly
sure.
figure. I think he's become, isn't he? I mean, to even people who are older like me, he's just so helpful. Every time I've ever reached out to him, he's always accessible. I just, yeah, I get more and more impressed with Chrigel every year. He's really a
Exactly, exactly.
stellar athlete.
Especially one of the days when I got lucky to get in a heading position in front of everybody, because the first group were a bit more aggressive and they just bombed out in front of us. And then I was leading for kind of 20 minutes or something. I was like, wow, these guys have to hike and then try to catch me. And then I suddenly, after a few waypoints, I still see Chrigel from below overtaking me. I was like, how that is even possible? I'm on full bar constantly. And I didn't bomb out. And he had to hike a mountain and take a better line and fly faster. And he did that, and he won that day. It was amazing. And the other way that we could read that, I hear comments that he mistake as well one of the tag. He mistake to tag one of the turn point. But then I don't know. I don't know what's the really reason. There were some people telling me there was many bad political messages to the French team, why they are there and contributing to this event. I didn't get any of this negative feedback, and in general, I think these guys had a very positive intention, and they did really expand the vision of the sport and the experience of these athletes, including me. I was really, really lucky and very grateful to be part of this. But of course, there is always political part that can throw a shadow on everything. I try not to focus on that part. I hope his decision was not based on political aspects, and I believe that his act was more of a sportsman reward to the young generation coming back so strong, coming forward so strong.
Well, it must have been terrific. My friend Logan went over and was, he's got kind of X Alps aspirations and stuff. And I think it must have been, I mean, you were in the cream of the crop in terms of the hike and fly crew these days. I mean, Maxime wasn't there. There were Paul wasn't there, but there were some big names that weren't there. But for the most part, really strong crew. And it just looked like the vibe was amazing. And I would imagine, you got to see some of those guys. I mean, even in a very different environment, obviously, than the Alps and the X Alps, but just how these guys perform. This last X Alps was they're all an eye opener, but this last one for me, I trained so hard for this last one. I knew it was going to be my last one, and I really put everything into it. I have with the other ones too, but from the physical side, because I knew I can't catch up with these guys from the flying side. They fly all the time too. So, anyway, my point is especially these young guns, they're so good and they're so fast and they're so capable on the ground. I mean, Tanguay's a beast, and he did that 13,000 something plus meters in a day this year, and he's a really good pilot. Chrigel told me right after the prologue this year that he saw him do things in the Borns to Fly that he and Maxime couldn't do. He was pushing into wind, a crazy amount of wind, and just kind of fish upstreamed. Lost his glider, threw his reserve, landed, packed it up in 10 minutes, and kept going. It was just a total non-event. It is not,
Definitely was a humbling experience to spend time with these guys, because I only follow them online. I didn't really get to know them in the near years, but for me it was impressive to see how next level they are in everything. In every aspect of the flight, of the preparation, of the strategy, all the moves they did, and the energy they had is just uncomparable. I don't have, I think, the chance to measure the physical part. I just should play better, with the combination of these two, and that was the reason I participated. If it was X Alps, I would not have any chance. I would not really sign. But this was a small physical part that allowed me to mix up with these giants, and for me it was very humbling experience.
Since last we talked, Veso, you were pretty hardcore in acro the last time we talked, and since we talked, you broke the Infiniti record, uh, but your focus seems to have switched more heavily into XC. You won XContest this year, which is an amazing feat. You spent last fall down in Brazil and had a whole bunch of big ones, and you just were down at the Worlds. What's happened with this transition? Is that just kind of the natural flow, or did that just happen? Kind of, you just had more focus on an XC because it was fun, or tell me about it.
This interesting transition, I can just call it life. It was not really planned. It was kind of a natural thing because as more as I was obsessed with acro, as less I had the time and access to practice it properly. And then I started the company as well with a harness, which is just hanging here behind me.
Yep.
And it's as much as I really wanted to train, there was no time. And I'm based in Sofia, so I have to be always on travel. And that was kind of the reason that naturally shift me to cross country. Cross country is more accessible without such a big demand, to spend the time. I can use the experience from the past to help me to fly good XC, and I did that in Brazil. We were so lucky with Pal to explore the possibilities once again in Corona times. We were there having the time of our life. The world was almost shut down. We were welcome warm from every family there. We land in the middle of nowhere. You know how it is there. That was so special.
Yeah, the Sertao
And
special.
there was a couple of good pilots, but not many pilots. So that was also one of the reasons probably allow me to go on the top of the ranking of XContest, which was still not a plan back then, but just happened. And I was very happy. My dream was to cross 500, and it was so hard. That year was not easy. We didn't have winds. It was just few days, and I bombed out in the most beautiful day of my life ever since I fly. It was like so good. We were moving with a better checkpoints than the world record, so it was logically that we're gonna have something big in the basket. But then I bombed out in the best looking sky in 12 o'clock, in 300 kilometer. It was like,
Oh,
it was so painful.
oh,
And my buddy Pal
crushing.
and Maurice, the German pilot, they continue, but way more conservatively after this bomb out. They get stressed a bit and they keep a different line to score a declarate go as well. So they missed the 600 probably in that day, which was possible. And I had to overcome mentally this trauma and go exhausted on the way back, almost in the middle of the night, have just few hours sleep, and try again on the next day completely alone, man. That was so funny. Nobody wanted to take off with me. It was getting late. It was almost 8 o'clock, really blue, no wind. I was like, what the heck I'm doing? But it's my last day of really a chance. Then the forecast was shit and everyone was leaving. So, and myself as well. And I try, and I think that's the example of how powerful can be the human brain wave of desiring something. I believe that
Mm.
sometimes we have a little part of this creation because the day was really no nonsense. It was pathetic day, and I was crawling over the ground super slow with a late takeoff, and then suddenly the condition just explode like in the fairy tale, and I could go so fast, like an angry dog, like full gas, leaving every thermal which is less than 6 meter, just surfing
Whoa.
the convergency with very little turning for more than 200 kilometer, and then suddenly I compensate the late start and all of that, and I realize find myself in a proper position to have a 500, and it was very emotional, very rewarding because many people believe in me and send me positive messages, and I think all that create the magic, and I got my best flight in the last day of the staying. That was like, it's crazy because
Wow.
it's the 3 time in the row. I've been 3 time chasing big flights in Brazil, and I get my best flight in a similar situation, which is kind of rare. But same time, they have a statistic, and this guy always told me people make their best flight in the first day or in the last day. And I was like, oh, okay, well, okay, and it's played the same for me for 3 times.
I think it's wrong for us to have these checkpoints when we're going for big distance because,
in general.
Larry Tudor, the Dark Prince, taught me something years ago. Before I went down to Texas, he said, I was asking him, because he'd spent a lot of time in Zapata and trying to break the record there, and he'd done it from Hobbs way back in the day. And I said, hey, what's the secret? Because it's such a waiting game. It's not like Brazil in Texas. Texas is there's a lot more waiting around, and it's brutal. It's hot, and there's nothing to do, and it's tough. It's a tough waiting game. And he said you have to try every day. Don't pay attention to the weather. You have to give it a shot, give it a try. And I still kick myself. Our very first attempt there, again, like you said, first day, I was with Donizete, and he's the king, right? He's the king. He's been with those guys, the Brazilian team, to break the record, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. And, it was just a little bit slower start than what he would have liked. And so we were 160K out, and man, the sky was epic. And he decided, nah, let's save our energy. Let's go land. And it took over an hour to get to the ground. It was just hoovering and windy, and it was sketchy trying to get to the ground. I just kept thinking, man, it'd be a lot easier to just, and we had some overdevelopment to windward. So we would have been getting chased by that, but it was dicey, and we ended up landing next to a prison, and we almost got arrested, and it was just traumatic. It ended up taking more energy to just get to the ground than it would have been to just fly another 200K and and had a pretty good day. So would we have broken the record? Who knows? But I still kick myself for that because, you never know. You could, when you read Will Gadd's, the day before, or was it the day after? Yeah, the day before he got the record was even better, apparently. And, the day he got the record, he was late, and, he wasn't really in a very good headspace, and it wasn't very good conditions, and it was blue and all these things. And then boom, 9 hours later, he's got the record or wherever it was. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think we have to hang in there. It's hard because you're always balancing this. Well, if I go and I get back late, and then tomorrow it's going to be tough, but it seems like you just got to give it a try.
Yeah, I mean, probably logistically in Texas the situation is different, and that can, make you choose this strategy. In Brazil, it was quite easy to try almost every day. First, the weather is way more consistent, and the retrieval is so getting more efficient every year. These guys are getting bigger cars, faster cars, which is actually crazy. On the way back, sometimes you feel in a greater danger than the flight.
Yeah.
But we were trying like this, you say, every day. I had two time, like 3 days in a row without sleep, more than 400, almost every time. I remember one of the landing, I land and I couldn't make step. I fall like a bag of potato. And I was like, what? Like, I was looking for some dark force which pushed me on the ground, but it was just no more battery, and I think only the desire for such a adventure can drive you through such an exhausting phase. Otherwise, if you have to be paid to do that or any other reason, I think you wouldn't make it. We were like a mad junkies about this, and it was crazy experience.
Yeah, I think that's maybe one of the misunderstandings about chasing these records is you really have to, or at least for me, I found that you have to go in with the mindset that you're going to work. It ain't gonna be easy. It's tough. It's long days, long nights, early mornings, a lot of wind. There's usually a lot of stress involved with the launch and stuff. I've never done the Keiko, that area. I've never done the towing. I've only done Tsushima. And, I'll tell you, Tsushima was hardcore. That was back when they were usually using that as the start. And, the weather reports, the forecast meant nothing, literally, so you had to try every day, and you're getting out there in the dark. And the launch is sketchy. It's really windy, and the chance of getting blown back is pretty high, and it's just brutal. You see a lot of carnage, and so that's stressful. And then you get up, and if you get established there, you kind of wait until you get a little bit higher, and then you got to clear a 40K plateau right on the deck. It's just super low, and the cloud base early in the morning is never high because you're quite close to the ocean. And, it's just 90. It seems like, I think when they did the record in 2015, they were there for 39 days and flew 3. So I mean, it's most of the time you're back at the hotel by 8 a.m. Even if you've
Yeah,
had a flight, you're back at the hotel at 8 a.m. There's no internet, there's nothing to do.
this
Food's not
place is
great. And it's like, man, oh.
it's brutal. It's brutal. The filter there is too big, as you say. The statistic, it's really not fun. I think even now that the number is raised to 600 plus in the States, which is amazing, and huge respect,
Amazing.
hat downs for the guy and for everyone who helped him. It's really amazing. But now I think the Brazilians and all the foreigners that go there, even if I go there myself again, I think we should try to fly something between Quixada and the towing area around the Rio Grande Norte, Açu and Caico, because starting closer to the sea, you have to pass the plateau still, because the 600 plus, it's over the plateau, even starting from the ocean, from Tasima. So meaning that
Yeah.
you're arriving with the last bit of conditions in almost in a pitch black with 1,000-meter plateau. It's very complicated. I think it's way more better to use the plateau as a trampoline, to use it to arrive like around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, when it's really still pumping, and then continue 200K or after the plateau. This is, I think, the better chance for Brazil to believe to cross 600.
But don't you, if you start further in, won't you run into the jungle?
No, friend of mine, Leonardo Padua, he flew, I think, with the Aspens 450, and from the Quixada, and also with the Enzo 2, he flew 485 from the takeoff of Quixada. So
Yeah.
so
there's still some room to work there. So if you come
plenty
like 200K east and start, I see what you're saying. So between Quixada,
instead of making 220K before Quixada, you have to make just 110 maybe, and then continue with a really high altitude cloud base and a really sweet conditions, rather than surviving early morning close to this madness to the sea, and then still arriving with uphill terrain. That's, I think, the only trick is you will need a really windy day, because the big bonus starting close to the sea, that you have the strong wind, which is from one side terrifying, but from other side gives you the kilometers. So you have to have a really strong day that is having wind already from the inland, pretty serious wind. But there are some days with such a condition.
You said before we started recording that this last year, I don't know, probably because some of it because of Corona and just travel and that kind of thing, but you kind of went inward. You had the Brazil stuff last fall, and then because it was hard to do comps and stuff this year, you spent some more time just jumping, which you called very stress-free. I find that hysterical. So jumping off cliffs is just kind of taking it easy.
It's a therapy for me. It's like my kind of meeting the service that straighten your mind. For me, jumping is doing this job. But in general, I felt realistically quite distant from my normal schedule and from my goals to compete on a world level in the few disciplines, but mainly acro. I didn't have time to train, and because of the development of the harness, I lose a lot of training hours behind of the guys, and I didn't try to catch up. I just like the stage I am, and I decide to give some peace of mind, and just hike the mountain, not use thermals, use my own legs, because I'm getting older. We're not getting younger, and I wanted to earn every meter in the mountain with my 2 legs, and then of course take the cherry and jump from the mountain. That was my therapy for months. I was very inspired and ready, standby to fly cross country. I had my Enzo. Spent like 2 months almost in the car, but couldn't register on time for the comps, and I had to move through the schedule somehow still, and I couldn't catch the good days for flying. I was about to catch up with Timo, which is, by the way, one of the most impressive cross-country bird, rising so young and so good already.
Who?
He was doing some Timo, who is now winning the XContest by a record number. This year he
Right.
smashed it completely. He makes so many big flights, and he's so young. So I was about to join him last summer there, but was always some complication with the travel, with the corona. I was trying to stay closer to the acro gang. I sponsor them now. I support them a bit with the harness. They help me with the R&D, and I just start to feel a different center of gravity for me now. It's not about proving anymore anything. It's more about contributing and enjoying and sharing with the community.
And how does it work with Red Bull now? Is it if you're not competing in acro, is that part of the contract, or they don't really care? Is it more just because you're still out there capturing great content, and I don't know where you get all these great pictures from. You got somebody in your back pocket taking all these cool shots all the time. You're awesome to follow on Instagram. I love it. I'm not a big social media fan in general, but I sure like following you on Instagram.
Thanks for the last, Gavin. Yeah, definitely. I'm lucky to have some friends with a really good eye and motivated to hike all these mountains. Some crazy friends from Bulgaria with strong legs, responsible for the good images. And in general, for Red Bull, there is no really direct pressure, but of course, they are requiring you to be on a high level and to be engaged to a competition scene. And I'm trying to do that as a shift to the cross country, but I present myself very poorly this year because I come with no training, straight from Brazil, like more than 1 year, almost no flying before Argentina. It was a bit naive to expect the high result because you need to tune up your head. Technically
Yeah.
we are good, but just the way of the competition flying is a very specific. And I was a bit, down from that I couldn't rank myself properly. But I see that my skills are enough to rank myself good if I don't make silly mistakes. And that was still very good motivation for me and belief that I can shift my career more to cross country. We just less demanding, and the flight is kind of a bit more rewarding when you don't train so much and you receive such amazing flight. For acro to receive amazing feeling, you need to train. Otherwise, you will
Yeah.
scare yourself or hurt yourself. So
Yeah.
it's just a bit more easy for me to keep up, with the world class. And now I get this new inspiration from the hike and fly. I don't know if I will ever join the elite, but I'm really trying to keep myself more fit and paraglide in a world class level, at least for distance flying, for projects. And we'll try to do some high mountain now in combination with flying. It's all about exploring new territory and mixing it up, capturing it good with the story inside. I think in the end that's very important for Red Bull and for all the sponsors I have, luckily.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see you in some of the other hike and fly races. My buddy Ben, who's supported me in all the X Alps thus far, four of them, he's just signed up for the Dolomiti, in August, and some of that stuff. I'd like to, the X Alps I think is just too much for me now going forward, but I'd love to still participate in some of the smaller, shorter events. They're still very intense, but they're the Eiger and the Verco and that stuff just looks so fun.
Exactly, and the vibe was different. As a newbie there, I could see the difference because I've been joining so many in the past events in acro and in cross country. There, the vibe sometimes is fluctuating. It could be stressful for most of the guys, who have ambitions and go and failing them and so on. But in the hike and fly, no matter what was your ranking, everyone was smiling and positive till the end. It was kind of a really a joyful experience of the sort of we are chasing in our projects. It was really different. I don't know if it's like this in Excel, but that was very touching for me to experience, to explore.
Yeah, it is a neat community, isn't it? And especially in something like the X Alps, we all kind of know we're going to war, and it's dangerous going to war, and everybody's kind of looking out for everybody. It's a real it's. I had this beautiful experience with Lori, when
Yeah.
she got really scared for out of when she left Lermoos and had to throw a reserve and to miss these high tension power lines. And I had this beautiful moment with her and Fish at the Fish turn point when she decided to just that was it for her. That she'd had an amazing race, and just seeing her eyes and just feeling this kind of relief of the stress. And I don't know, I'm not describing it very well, but
I got you.
we're all in this experience together. We're having very different experiences, but you're all in it together. And most of the time the X-Ops, you're alone. You're very rarely with anybody else, but it's yeah, it's special.
Yeah, I can say the same. For me, it was absolutely the same. Very inspiring, and everyone is engaged and looking after each other, as you said. And I'm very looking forward to join some future smaller events like this that will enable me to keep up at least a little bit, with the best, because they are so ahead, man. They're like machines. I cannot even
They are.
understand
Yeah.
how the body can work so well, but I guess they've been practicing before.
Yeah, the level is just it's on a curve that I can't keep up with. It's really impressive. Tell me about your harness. I got a good look at it from Dylan Benedetti. I did a bunch of acro training with him this spring, getting ready for the race out in California, and he showed me your harness. It looks wicked. But describe it for those who aren't aware of it yet. It's sitting next to you there, but uh, cool piece of kit, man.
Yeah, this harness was born purely from a desire to have the perfect seat, the perfect harness for what we do, for the safety, for the comfort, for all the special parts that the industry was kind of negligent about, because they're not really necessarily related to any profit. And that put me to this naive project. It took me almost 3 years with the hard work of 4 or 5 friends around me, countless hours of R&D and testing and making prototypes. And now we can say that we have something very complete and still improving. But now the harness, you can see it hanging here. It has a really solid structure, very comfortable support from every side. It's not gonna hurt your body from pushing any hard maneuver, and you can customize it in a different style of flying that normally conventional harness will not support. And of course, having the three rescue parachute was a dream. Not only having three of them, but also having them in a different position, because sometimes, when we're in the lines in a dangerous situation, you don't have access if you're wrapped around your legs, even if you have two under your legs. So we have all the parachute in different position, which give additional safety feeling for the head. It has a good, better balance distribution of the weight, better protection, because if you hit without the rescue deployment, it's still like a protector. They have many extras. It's a long talk to involve every extra, but in general was something created from a pilots to the pilots without any commercial intention. And of course now we're trying to sell some of them to support this project further on. The idea is to support these athletes, the acro athletes, in a real level, like giving them the best equipment and being able to use their knowledge and expertise to expand the functionality and safety of this product. Because many times, the industry sometimes support athletes, but they kind of shallow relation, and the development is not really boosted properly by the athletes, which can happen. We see that in all the other sports which are with more money involved. Of course, somehow it's easier for these guys, but for us, it's been always a gap between the industry and the needs, and the knowledge in the athletes. So now we want to merge this both and be on an infinite journey for improving this kind of equipment, spreading it in a different discipline as well, making for cross country in the near future, making active protection system, just being very close to the interest of the pilots. And we hope that we can sustain financially this project going.
And it's got the whole cutaway system, correct? The one in the center is kind of a base rig.
Yes, we really experiment a lot, but now we come back to the conventional three ring mechanism, which is actually patent from the 40 something. Now is free for everyone to use. The only thing that this system is lacking is the special ring carabiner that doesn't exist yet in the industry. We use this kind of good looking shackles that are fitting well, but they are still thicker and too much strong that what we don't need to be so thick, you know. We're preparing to have our own carabiner, specially made as a proper ring with a separate shoulder for the riser on top. That will really give the, you know, the icing on the cake, you know. We have many things to polish.
You think you can cross this technology over into a pod setup too? It'll be a cross country option as well.
Yes, yes, definitely. For the peace of mind, I think it's good to have it in the cross country. But I think it's more of a you know, cross country, like when you're pushing on your own, not really to give you additional safety for a gaggle flying. Because I was thinking so much about the risk and the safety of the gaggle flying. But then it's very complicated to have a clear deployment if you're in the middle of the gaggle and so on. It's more about your own safety when you're taking risk in a sketchy line in a, you know, lower altitude with some rough terrain that you want a clear deployment as fast as possible and way to steer away from the terrain. That will be real safety bonus, and we believe we can develop it in the near future.
What's the name of it?
Of the pot.
Yep. No, their harness.
Oh no, the name of the harness is 3RS. We give this kind of technical name because it's communicating with the 3 rescue parachute and with the 3 ring system. So it's just giving name for the extras inside. Yeah, we make many amazing features like the custom made buckles. We designed them on a CNC machine, cut them from aviation aluminum, and they're really strong. They never release the grip. You know, we used to stitch our harness, doing acro and taping it with duct tape to keep the position. Now it's all set, but we have many things to improve and on the track. You know, to make a color code custom mix webbing with Dynema. You know, many details that just require time and a lot of money. In the beginning, I was like, we're gonna do it with pocket money. So far, I don't want to say big word, but we've been throwing money almost for an apartment, you know, and 3 years of working with no salary. And this thing can take hundreds of thousands easily. It can slow, you know. The development is
Man,
so
harnesses are
much.
so complicated. I look at them and go, "How in the world do you?"
I hope I will manage to keep the crew because it's difficult without financing. There are some interest people want to finance the company in the company, but they're just pure commercial, and I'm not really keen to share yet with them the company. And maybe at some point we will even talk to the community as a open investment, like how you say, not Kickstarter, a GoFundMe or something, you know, just to keep the spirit, because I think it started like this and will be very pity to disappear or to be sold to some commercial company that just look profit.
Yeah, good for you, man. And, I got a chance to sit in it and play with it when I was out with Dylan. It was a beautiful piece of kit. It's gorgeous.
It's getting better every time, so hope that you can see soon some of the latest version. It's a constant improve. I thought we're gonna do harness because you do one model and you can keep it 10 years on the market. This is what I seen, you know, from the industry. But it's not like this because I'm never satisfied and I don't want to keep even 2 months the same thing, because you can improve it every day.
Sure, of course.
It's like growing, like growing my own kid, you know. I'm still not a biological father, so this is my kid. Looking after
you snuggle at night, talk to her nicely in the morning. I get it. I do that with my new wings.
Him, you know, hanging together, talking about this and that, you know, finding unique extras and relation between.
Hey, rewinding to the worlds and XC and competing and race to gold type stuff. You mentioned, you know, before we started recording, that you weren't really tuned up going into this because you hadn't been competing that much, but you found that for the most part you could hang with the lead guys, until you made a mistake. Talk about mistakes, because I think a lot of folks struggle with that. what kind of mistakes are the ones that get you repeatedly? Are they up in here? What
I
just talk
think
about mistakes a little bit.
in these events, I really refresh my mind and re-educate again on the same topic that it's been so painful in the past when you do the same mistakes. Basically, the biggest and the worst mistake that can ruin your flying and your score is just trying to be too aggressive, just trying to believe blindly that it's going to work, without a clear sign that you're choosing the better option, and I get both on these events. Sometimes I was choosing completely different decision from the main group, from the Gago, and we even find ourselves with Pal in one of those moments, just like, what the heck, Pal? Why you're here? Why you're here? Why we're not there? It was like, yeah, because they're going in the shadow, right? This is not good. And here is the sun on the left. It's of course. But then we start hucking 4-meter thermo and hopping from cloud to cloud and just overtake the main Gago by far, easy, But that was a one good decision. But bad decision was just trying to run without a plan, just going, just going because you feel like you're thermaling good, you're gliding good, you don't feel upset about anything today, and just keep pushing and blindly. Like, that was the thing that really put me on the ground, slow me down, and then I had to survive and crawl after the last guy on the go. That was really stupid mistake. Don't try to push without a plan. You can push when you see a clear path, and explaining yourself why. Always have to ask yourself why. If you're just pushing because you blindly believe, not gonna work.
That's
And
good
the other
advice.
thing, the other advice is, we have difference in the performance of the equipment according to sizes and stuff. And sometimes I was upset to see that I'm just slightly bit, in a disadvantage because I'm flying small size. But even though I make a stupid decision to change completely the course and try to fly in an individual line just to feel better, but okay, you can feel better for a while because you're not gliding worse than anyone around you. But if you don't have a plan why you're going there, just because you want to feel better, you're going to end up bad again. Everything is just come to the discipline. What is good, what is bad, what is risky, what is stupid, what is good to do. And simple things, nothing genius, simple.
I think watching Russ win that is cements for me. His word is discipline. He always talks about that. You got to have discipline, discipline,
Discipline.
discipline, and that cements for me. It seemed like, especially there, because it was. I flew there the year, whatever that was, 2 years ago for the World Cup down there, and I think we had pretty similar conditions. It was a lot of rain, a lot of cloud, a lot of really slow climbs, just painfully slow, and that's not the kind of flying that I experience here in Sun Valley. Everything here is always really strong, and so it was really a total. You had to almost meditate on just slowing down and not taking a lot of risk and being disciplined. It's a different
Hats
kind of place
down
to race.
is a really essential spectrum word that can really describe the whole blah blah. Discipline was something that when I was applying, I was doing really good. Maybe not
Mm,
really ahead of in front of the people, but I was doing really good. And if I sustained that every day, I was going to end up really good. As the moment I turn emotional, things go to heck. And he proved that because he catch me one of the days he won task after a poor experiment to escape from the Gago because I was on top and slightly in front. I was like, okay, see you guys, bye bye alone. Missed the line of the lift, find myself on the floor. They flew over me with a little zigzag, and I was like, whoa, what I was thinking, And I end up alone behind, and then I see, okay, Russ is coming from even far behind me and even
mm,
lower. I was like, okay, let's keep with this flying god, just keep up with him. And then I thought, because he started really catching me and eventually catch me and climb better than me in the thermal, which I kind of break my concentration. I was like, how this is possible? I was really trying my best. But of course, he was better somehow. And he did that. And then on a glide, he won a bit better altitude as well. So our separation started to be, kind of visible. We are not really in the same air mass, but still, if I keep discipline and just following the good line, not trying to find another, invisible, much better, which was obviously not existing. I just did that. I tried to find another line to get ahead, and then keep up again with him. And I get again super low, and he won the task with few moves after that. You just keep discipline, the best guy, and don't compare. Patience as well. Sometimes comparing can really break your mind. Don't compare. Always just do your best and stick discipline to the best plan according to the picture you're seeing. Don't try to be emotional. And if you can do that over and over again, you'll be probably very good. That's it. But again, flying is related to bring us emotion, and controlling this emotion is kind of a controversial reason why we're in the sky, isn't it? So that's the big
kind of works
big challenge.
Against the whole point of what we're doing,
yes,
isn't it? I know.
That's the big
it's a
challenge.
Hard balance. God, yes. It's a hard balance.
So, yeah, it's something that we will try to master our life in any aspect of life. It's just discipline, Imagine what is more important, to prove in that certain moment that you can do it, or just be emotional and believe that you can do it anyway. But then this can hurt you, because that's what happened with me and with many pilots. They're like, anyway, we bomb out, it's no big deal. But when you do that a few times, you feel bad, it hurts you.
It is an emotional roller coaster, that's for sure. I mean, it's so easy in 2020 hindsight to look back and go, yeah, the whole thing, you just got to be calm and not kick your helmet. And, and it doesn't, you always see the really good guys, they bomb out and it doesn't seem to bother them. But when it comes down to it, we're humans, we got an ego, and man, it can be hard to get the beat down, especially when it's, a few days in a row. I did that down in Roldo a few years ago. I had a really good year one year there, and the next year I went down, I'm going to crush it. And boom, boom, it's just,
yeah. And
I got to do this again tomorrow.
Yeah. Also get a few very, very strong lessons in Argentina. Surprisingly, the good one was in La Rioja, where we were flying beyond my experience, even when I fly in Brazil in the strong condition, following the wind over these wild territories, was in a way more comfortable what I experienced in La Rioja during a World Cup, because we were flying like 40 kilometer almost square, really vast area with just bush. Not very life-threatening, but bush and spikes, small trees and nothing, no landing. And you're going to walk like a wild pig for probably days to get out of there. And we're flying over this territory with a 40K headwind, not following the wind. And I thought, this is insane or completely impossible. And we close task like this. And I thought I seen strong condition in one of those days. I was really emotionally exhausted, and in the end I started my final glide 500 meter minus 10K from the goal. I was like, anyway, it's gonna work somehow. I arrived 2,500 meter over the goal. It was impossible to go down, man. On full bar, 10 kilometer on full bar, I gained 3,000 meter up straight.
Jeez.
People were sucked in airspace and disqualified this day. Pitoko missed to win the competition that day because he got 0 points. It was brutal, and I didn't have collapse. We were handling these conditions somehow, flying in a lee side of a big mountain over these bushes, no problem. Just concentration, being an animal turned to a beast. You manage somehow. And then the opposite. I go to Tucumán in this kindergarten jungle, flying tra-la-la over the jungle, very low, very smooth. I almost die in the training day. My Enzo, for the first time, I changed maybe 4 or 5 Enzos so far, flown them in any kind of condition, rough condition. I never get this ugly collapse with no chute. Normally, I fly with the mentality that if my glider move, I'm gonna get it. I'm like a black mamba. I have the reflex like putting something in your eye and I'm gonna blink before, for sure. I believe in that. And that's why I go to fly every day with no stress, because I believe in that. But the
Yeah.
glider disappear without moving forward, just go down like a domino. It fall to
Whoa.
my head, really big frontal moving to the side, getting an instant cravat while folding. The slack of the brakes back then is so big. You don't have
Yeah.
6 meter arm to control any of this. So you just do something, but it's nothing. And then you just wait to load the glider when it's already with a huge cravat. I didn't even look on the side, just barely with my periphery, but I knew that I'm low and I'm not gonna save time looking down. So I stalled the wing immediately, and I recover it as fast as I can. It was really like a cascade, bam, 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 and open. No waste of time, but I was 20 meter over a huge area of power lines.
Oh God.
I could have died there without doing anything extreme. They're just cruising smoothly over the jungle. So my message to the fellow pilots and all the people there that might listen us, just never put 100% confidence in your gear for no reason. If it's like maybe the reason that you evaluate is enough, okay. But if you are just not expecting it, that's problem, because I was not expecting such a collapse in place like this with no serious turbulence, with no nothing, to prevent, to alert. Paragliding in the end can be a dodgy sport, and always give yourself some room from the ground, except if you're not shooting on sunset and if you're really mentally prepared. And the terrain have to be chosen. This was the ugly part of the terrain with no rescue backup options. If you throw rescue or no rescue, you're dead over these power lines. So choose your terrain when you're close to ground, man. That's
Jeez,
it.
man. I mean, that's a great story, but I hate those stories.
I
I
know
just,
you hate
man,
that story. Me too. I
well,
was affected hours after the landing. I couldn't get scared, but when I landed, I was like, geez, I could have died.
it sucks. I don't like that part of our sport, and that there is that randomness that, there's nothing.
It's small.
I don't know if you heard, but I had my first crash in May. It was 2 weeks before the race, and the listeners who've listened to the show have heard about this. I won't go through it again, but it was the same thing. I took off, and it was early in the morning. It wasn't that thermic yet, and there was no red flags. Nothing. There wasn't, I was, except that I was flying in Sun Valley. It's always, a little rowdy here, but it was, I was way overloaded on my glider. It's kind of the only thing I could think, but I hit some weird air, and I was 100 feet off the ground, and the wing just disappeared instantly into an auto rotation. And I had just done all that work with Dylan, and I'm on my light kit. I've got one reserve, and I just thought, I can't throw my reserve until I get this straightened out. And anyway, it worked out. I hit the ground incredibly hard. The reserve popped, and I hit the deck, and so it did enough to save my life. But it was, it was the head scratchy part was just, what the fuck just happened right there? How did that? All the hours I've flown and all the rowdy conditions and 4X Alps, and what just hit me? What just did that to my glider? And yeah, that's what I don't like about the sport, is just when you're ridge soaring and you take a collapse on the inward side, not a lot you can do.
But
You
that's
heard
like,
about those guys in
yeah.
the descentist war in the super final this year. They all said, the guys I talked to just said, it was pretty dicey, just racing right on these cliff edges, full bar. Even Chrigel would have a hard time recovering if something went wrong in that situation. And
He was
yeah,
very lucky
that's what
there, actually.
gives me the heebie-jeebies about the sport. It's just there's that factor too. We've got enough factors.
Yeah, I heard that he had a spicy situation there, actually, similar to what we described, last minute, last second call. But I think this is the factor of bad luck, and this is existing in every aspect of life. And of course, you're more likely to meet this factor when you're doing every day what you love to do, not like on the street. It's accepted part of life, but it sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. There's not much more to say about it, is there? It's just part of it.
Yeah, like the snowboarder there was an article few days ago. I think a very good snowboarder just passed away on the ski piste, like Schumacher, just hit his head, but boom. And he used to be a guy making thousand, big rotations over his head and doing this on the icy blue jumps, no problem. And he just, it's yeah, it's a tricky one, but if we beware and be more caution on a situation that doesn't require our attention, I think that's the best insurance.
Yeah. And a good place to end. Veso, it's so awesome always catching up with you. We should make this a yearly event at least. I have really enjoyed kind of getting to know you via your posts all these years since we had our last talk. And where did we see each other last time? We were at that event near Garda. You were the King of the Air thing, I think was the last time I saw you. But I hope we catch up with one of these hike and fly races maybe in the future. It was so cool to see you on the roster for Dubai, and I was really looking forward to catching up with you there and having a beer with you and watching those young guns go to town. But congratulations on all the success this year and the XContest win and having some fun. Well done, and good luck with the harness.
Thank you, Gavin. For me, it's a great pleasure to hang out with you and deeply inspired by the stuff you do, and I'm sure you're far from done, and I look forward to see you in the States or somewhere in the skies, really.
Sounds good. If you find the Cloud-Based Mayhem valuable, you can support it in a lot of different ways. You can give us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or however you get your podcast. That goes a long ways and helps spread the word. You can blog about it on your own website or share it on social media. You can talk about it on the way up to launch with your pilot friends. I know a lot of interesting conversations have happened that way. And of course, you can support us financially. This show does take a lot of time, a lot of editing, a lot of storage and music and all kinds of behind the scenes cost. So if you can support us financially, all we've ever asked for is $1 a show. And you can do that through a one-time donation through PayPal, or you can set up a subscription service that charges you for each show that comes out. We put a new show out every 2 weeks. So, for example, if you did $1 a show and every 2 weeks, it'd be about $25 a year. So way cheaper than a magazine subscription, and it makes all of this possible. I do not want to fund this show with advertising or sponsors. We get asked about that pretty frequently, but for a whole bunch of different reasons, which I've said many times on the show, I don't want to do that. I don't like having that stuff at the front of the show. And I also want you to know that these are authentic conversations with real people, and these are just our opinions, but our opinions are not being skewed by sponsors or advertising dollars. I think that's a pretty toxic business model. So I hope you dig that. You can support us. If you go to cloudbasedmayhem.com, you can find the places to support. You can do it through patreon.com/cloudbasedmayhem. If you want a recurring subscription, you can also do that directly through the website. We've tried to make it really easy, and that will give you access to all the bonus material, little video casts that we do and extra little nuggets that we find in conversations that don't make it into the main show, but we feel like you should hear. We don't put any of that behind a paywall. If you can't afford to support us, then just let me know and I'll set you up with an account. Of course, that'll be lifetime, and hopefully you're being in a position someday to be able to support us. But you'll find all that on the website. All of you who have supported us or even joined our newsletter or bought Cloud-Based Mayhem merchandise, t-shirts or hats or anything, you should be all set up. You should have an account, and you should be able to access all that bonus material now. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your support, and we'll see you on the next show. Thank you.